Breaking. Triple H just made the most disgusting business decision in WWE history, and what I'm about to expose will make your blood boil with absolute rage. You think you know Paul Levesque. You think Papa H actually cares about talent development and treating wrestlers fairly. Think again. Because what happened behind closed doors at WWE headquarters last week is so morally bankrupt, so financially manipulative, and so devastating to one of wrestling's biggest stars that it's going to change everything you believed about WWE's new leadership. Ladies and gentlemen, Rhea Ripley, Mommy herself, the Judgment Day powerhouse, the woman who carried WWE's women's division on her shoulders, has been fired in what can only be described as the most calculated, cold-hearted contract manipulation scheme in modern wrestling history. And the worst part, this wasn't about performance, this wasn't about attitude, this was pure greed disguised as business strategy. Before I destroy your faith in WWE's corporate structure forever, you need to understand that this isn't just about one wrestler losing her job. This is about a systematic approach to talent exploitation that could affect every single performer on the WWE roster. What Triple H orchestrated against Rhea Ripley is so legally questionable, so ethically corrupt, that multiple wrestling industry lawyers are calling it potentially the most scandalous contract termination in professional wrestling history. # the financial betrayal that will shock you. Here's the nuclear truth that WWE desperately doesn't want you to know. Rhea Ripley's contract was set to expire in 6 months, and instead of negotiating in good faith like any legitimate business would do, Triple H and WWE's financial team orchestrated her termination to avoid paying what sources are telling me would have been the largest women's wrestling contract in company history. We're talking about a renewal that would have made Rhea one of the highest paid female performers in WWE, with guaranteed money that reflected her massive drawing power, her merchandise sales, and her international appeal. But rather than invest in the talent that helped revitalize their women's division, WWE's accounting department apparently decided it would be cheaper to destroy her career and replace her with someone they could pay a fraction of the cost. Multiple sources with direct knowledge of WWE's financial operations have told me that Rhea's renewal demands weren't even unreasonable by industry standards. We're talking about a performer who consistently delivers in the ring, drives merchandise sales through the roof, and has international recognition that most wrestlers never achieve. Her asking price was completely justified by her contribution to WWE's bottom line. But here's where it gets absolutely disgusting. Instead of simply saying no to her contract demands and letting her explore free agency like a normal business would do, Triple H's team allegedly began documenting every minor incident, every backstage interaction, every possible excuse they could use to justify termination for cause. They were building a case to fire her while simultaneously negotiating, which is not only ethically bankrupt but potentially legally actionable. The most infuriating part, sources tell me that Rhea was led to believe that contract negotiations were progressing positively right up until the moment she was called into that termination meeting. She was blindsided by people she trusted, people she helped make millions of dollars, people who benefited directly from her hard work and dedication. # the devastating personal impact on Rhea Ripley. What Triple H and WWE's corporate machine did to Rhea Ripley goes beyond just business. They destroyed her emotional and financial security in ways that reveal the absolute worst of professional wrestling's corporate culture. Sources close to Rhea are describing a level of personal devastation that extends far beyond just losing a job. According to multiple people in Rhea's inner circle, she had made major life decisions based on the assumption that her WWE contract would be renewed. We're talking about financial commitments, family plans, and career investments that were all built around the expectation of continued employment with WWE. The sudden termination didn't just end her job, it potentially destroyed months or even years of personal planning. The emotional toll has been described as absolutely heartbreaking by people who know her personally. This is a performer who gave everything to WWE, who moved across the world to pursue her wrestling dreams, who worked through injuries and personal sacrifices to help build WWE's women's division into what it is today. The betrayal she's experiencing isn't just professional, it's deeply personal. Multiple sources have told me that Rhea's reaction to the termination was a mixture of shock, anger, and profound disappointment. She reportedly asked pointed questions about why she wasn't given the opportunity to negotiate or find middle ground, only to be told that the decision was final and non-negotiable. The dismissive way she was treated after years of loyalty and dedication is absolutely infuriating. But what makes this even more tragic is how it affects her relationship with wrestling itself. Sources tell me that Rhea is questioning whether she wants to continue in an industry that can treat its biggest stars with such callous disregard for their contributions and sacrifices. # the corporate greed behind the decision. What happened to Rhea Ripley exposes a level of corporate greed and financial manipulation that should make every wrestling fan absolutely furious. This isn't just about one contract termination. This is about a systematic approach to talent management that treats wrestlers as disposable assets rather than valuable performers. Industry financial analysts who have reviewed similar situations tell me that WWE's approach to raise contract represents a disturbing trend in sports entertainment. Instead of investing in proven talent, companies are increasingly choosing to cycle through performers to keep costs down, regardless of the impact on quality or fan loyalty. The numbers tell the story of just how greedy this decision really was. Rhea Ripley's merchandise sales, pay-per-view drawing power, and international market value easily justified the contract demands she was making. Multiple sources have told me that her renewal would have paid for itself within the first year just through merchandise and licensing deals alone. But WWE's accounting department apparently decided that short-term cost savings were more important than long-term investment in talent development. They were willing to lose one of their most marketable stars rather than pay market value for her continued services. The penny-pinching mentality behind this decision is absolutely disgraceful. What's even more infuriating is how this affects WWE's relationship with all their talent. If they're willing to do this to someone as successful and valuable as Rhea Ripley, what does that mean for every other wrestler on the roster? The message being sent is clear. No matter how hard you work, no matter how successful you become, you're still expendable if it saves the company money. The backstage political nightmare. The political fallout from Rhea Ripley's termination has created absolute chaos backstage at WWE, with wrestlers, management, and support staff all questioning what this means for the company's future direction. Multiple sources are describing an atmosphere of fear and uncertainty that's affecting everyone in the organization. Other wrestlers are reportedly furious about how Rhea was treated, viewing it as a betrayal not just of her, but of the entire roster's trust in WWE's leadership. Multiple performers have told sources that they're now questioning their own job security and reconsidering their loyalty to a company that can dispose of top talent so callously. The women's locker room is particularly affected by this situation. Rhea wasn't just a top performer. She was a leader who helped elevate other women's careers and contributed to the overall improvement of women's wrestling in WWE. Her sudden removal has created a leadership vacuum and sent a message to other female performers that their contributions can be dismissed at any time. Triple H's reputation as a talent-friendly leader has taken a massive hit among the roster. Sources tell me that wrestlers who previously viewed him as different from previous WWE management are now seeing him as just another corporate executive willing to sacrifice talent for financial gain. The trust and goodwill he had built up is being severely damaged by this decision. Management personnel are also reportedly struggling with the implications of this termination. Many WWE employees who work directly with talent are questioning whether they can continue to build relationships and make promises to performers when the company's approach to contracts has become so unpredictable and harsh. The legal implications and potential lawsuits. What many people don't realize is that Rhea Ripley's termination could have serious legal implications that extend far beyond just employment law. When you're dealing with contract manipulation, potential bad faith negotiations, and termination timing that appears designed to avoid financial obligations, lawyers get involved quickly. Multiple legal experts who specialize in entertainment and sports contracts have told me that WWE's approach to Rhea's situation could potentially violate several aspects of employment and contract law. The timing of the termination, the documentation process that preceded it, and the apparent coordination between termination and contract avoidance could all be legally problematic. Sources close to Rhea's legal team are telling me that they're reviewing every aspect of her termination to determine whether WWE acted in good faith throughout the process. If they can prove that the termination was primarily motivated by contract avoidance rather than legitimate performance or conduct issues, it could result in significant legal consequences for WWE. The potential financial exposure for WWE could be enormous. We're not just talking about the contract money they were trying to avoid. Wrongful termination lawsuits can result in punitive damages that far exceed the original contract value. If Rhea's legal team can prove bad faith or discriminatory treatment, WWE could end up paying far more than they would have if they had simply honored her contract renewal. But beyond the immediate financial implications, a successful lawsuit could set precedents that affect how WWE handles all future contract negotiations and terminations. Other wrestlers who feel they've been mistreated could use any legal victories as ammunition for their own cases. The industry-wide shock and reactions. The wrestling industry's reaction to Rhea Ripley's termination has been swift and overwhelmingly negative, with promoters, wrestlers, and industry professionals expressing shock at WWE's handling of one of their biggest stars. This isn't just affecting WWE, it's sending shockwaves through the entire professional wrestling world. Other wrestling promotions are reportedly already reaching out to Rhea's representatives, recognizing that WWE's loss could be their enormous gain. Multiple sources tell me that AEW, Impact Wrestling, and even international promotions are prepared to offer significant contracts to secure someone of Rhea's caliber and drawing power. Industry veterans who have seen decades of wrestling business practices are calling this termination one of the most short-sighted business decisions they've ever witnessed. The combination of losing a top performer while simultaneously damaging their reputation for talent relations is being described as a lose-lose situation that benefits nobody except WWE's accounting department. Wrestling journalists and podcasters are having a field day with this story, using it as an example of everything that's wrong with corporate wrestling. The narrative of a heartless company choosing profits over performers is resonating with fans who are increasingly frustrated with WWE's business practices. International wrestling markets, where Rhea has significant appeal, are particularly critical of WWE's decision. Promoters in Australia, Europe, and other regions are questioning WWE's commitment to global talent development when they're willing to dispose of their most successful international performers. The fan outrage and social media explosion. The wrestling fan community's reaction to Rhea Ripley's termination has been nothing short of explosive, with social media platforms becoming battlegrounds of anger, disappointment, and demands for accountability. What started as industry news has evolved into a full-scale fan rebellion against WWE's business practices. Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok are flooded with posts expressing outrage over Rhea's treatment, with hashtags calling for boycotts and demanding explanations trending worldwide. The emotional investment that fans had in Rhea's character and career is now manifesting as genuine anger toward WWE's corporate leadership. Fan-created content demanding Rhea's reinstatement is going viral, with wrestling fans organizing campaigns to pressure WWE into reversing their decision. The grassroots support for Rhea is demonstrating just how much her connection with fans meant to WWE's overall appeal. Comment sections across wrestling websites and social media platforms are filled with fans expressing their intention to stop watching WWE programming, cancel subscriptions, and boycott merchandise until the situation is resolved. The financial threat posed by fan backlash could potentially exceed the cost savings WWE achieved through Rhea's termination. International fan communities are particularly vocal about their disappointment, with many expressing that Rhea's termination feels like a rejection of global wrestling talent in favor of corporate profits. The damage to WWE's international reputation could have long-lasting consequences for their global expansion plans. The merchandise and financial consequences. The immediate financial impact of Rhea Ripley's termination extends far beyond just her salary savings, creating a cascade of revenue losses that could end up costing WWE significantly more than they saved through her firing. The short-sightedness of this decision becomes clear when you examine all the revenue streams affected by her absence. Rhea's merchandise sales were among the strongest in WWE's women's division, with her Mommy brand generating consistent revenue across multiple product categories. Her termination immediately eliminated this income stream while simultaneously creating inventory problems with existing merchandise that may no longer be marketable. International licensing deals and promotional opportunities featuring Rhea are now in jeopardy, potentially costing WWE millions in revenue from markets where she was a primary draw. Her appeal in Australia and other international markets made her valuable for global expansion efforts that are now severely compromised. Pay-per-view and premium live event drawing power is another significant loss. Rhea's matches consistently generated strong viewer interest and social media engagement, contributing to overall event success in ways that are difficult to quantify but extremely valuable for WWE's content strategy. The cost of replacing her star power and audience connection could be enormous. Building another performer to her level of recognition and marketability takes years of investment and development, with no guarantee of success. WWE essentially threw away years of brand building for short-term cost savings. The impact on the Judgment Day and storylines. Rhea Ripley's sudden termination has created massive creative problems for WWE's writing team, particularly regarding the Judgment Day faction and multiple ongoing storylines that were built around her character. The creative chaos resulting from her departure is affecting multiple wrestlers and storylines simultaneously. The Judgment Day's dynamic was heavily dependent on Rhea's presence as both a performer and a character element. Her removal from the group requires complete restructuring of storylines that were months in development, potentially wasting significant creative investment and planning. Multiple wrestling storylines involving Rhea were in various stages of development, from potential championship pursuits to long-term character arcs that spanned several pay-per-view events. Her termination has forced writers to scramble to find replacements or complete rewrites, creating consistency problems and narrative gaps. The relationships and rivalries she had built with other performers now need to be addressed or abandoned entirely. Years of character development and storyline investment have been essentially wasted due to a business decision that prioritized cost savings over creative continuity. Other wrestlers who were involved in storylines with Rhea are now facing uncertain futures, with their own character development potentially derailed by the sudden need to find new directions and opponents. The ripple effects of her termination are affecting multiple careers and storylines simultaneously. The women's division devastation. Rhea Ripley's termination has dealt a devastating blow to WWE's women's division that extends far beyond just losing one performer. She was a cornerstone of women's wrestling development and a key figure in the division's growth and credibility over the past several years. Her leadership role among female performers was significant, with multiple sources telling me that she mentored younger wrestlers and contributed to the overall improvement of women's wrestling quality. Her removal eliminates a crucial development resource for other female talent. The diversity and international representation she brought to the women's division cannot be easily replaced. Her unique background, style, and appeal to global audiences made her irreplaceable in terms of market reach and audience connection. Match quality and storyline depth in the women's division will likely suffer from her absence. Rhea's in-ring skills and character work elevated everyone she worked with, and finding performers capable of filling that void will be extremely challenging. The message her termination sends to other women in the division is particularly troubling. If someone as successful and valuable as Rhea can be disposed of for financial reasons, what security do any female performers have in their careers and futures with the company? The Triple H leadership crisis. This decision has created a massive crisis of confidence in Triple H's leadership among wrestlers, fans, and industry professionals who believed he represented a different approach to talent management compared to previous WWE regimes. His reputation as a talent-friendly leader is being severely damaged by this situation. Multiple sources within WWE are expressing disappointment that Triple H, who was supposed to represent change and improvement in talent relations, ultimately made a decision that prioritizes corporate profits over performer welfare. The gap between his public persona and his business decisions is becoming impossible to ignore. Wrestlers who previously viewed Triple H as an ally and advocate are now questioning whether he's truly different from previous WWE management or just better at public relations while making the same ruthless business.